You might feel way too ugly to chase your dreams, and honestly, that makes sense in a society where gorgeous people are held on a very high pedestal. But things aren't always as they seem, and what if I told you that maybe you're not even that ugly? Maybe you're just conditioned to see yourself that way. Today we're going to be talking about those feelings of insecurity, and I hope that by the end of it you can see yourself in a different lens and finally make those steps towards your goals, regardless of how you look. You're not going to magically have no insecurities anymore, but I really hope that you'll be able to take a step back and question them whenever they come up, rather than letting them rule your life. I find that we usually look at how other people are treated, and from that we decide, okay, do we fit in the same box as this person, or do we fit in another box? And then we kind of treat ourselves based on whatever the result of that evaluation is. Yeah, I found growing up that it seemed like only pretty people were represented in media, and I eventually started to kind of link success with beauty. And it's also important to note that specifically women, this standard is held very, very strongly against women. Men, of course, a little bit, but not as much as women. Women have to be beautiful all the time, or else society deems them unworthy. So, like, it's true, like, genuinely, there are pieces of the society that make people feel as if they have to be beautiful in order to be successful. And then as well, growing up on the internet, which is basically like a communal diary, you can see how shallow people are. And this can lead to very low self-esteem around appearance. Especially, like, for example, I know that there are a lot of lol cows going around nowadays, and I know that a lot of them have done really bad things, so, you know, of course they deserve to be held accountable for that. But many people are going and attacking them based on their appearance, and I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. And I think that someone who might look similarly to that person will end up seeing that, and they'll take it to heart, and they'll kind of start to treat themselves in a negative way because they look like that person. So a lot of the time, even if you're not the one that's kind of getting bullied or getting devalued because of your appearance, even witnessing it happening to another person can, in turn, make you feel that way. And of course, like, this makes sense biologically as well, because the brain is wired to believe negative things over positive things in order to protect itself. That's why it's so much easier to believe negative thoughts about yourself and to kind of have really, really bad self-talk. And it's really hard to get into positive self-talk because the brain just wants to protect itself. It's constantly looking to protect itself, and it's thinking, okay, if I'm the one that's being mean to myself, then it won't hurt as much if other people are mean to me. Then you end up turning into your biggest bully. Now, I want to take a step back because I've heard a lot of pretty people talk about their experiences as well. And this section of the video isn't just to talk about, you know, how poorly ugly people get treated. It's also talking about the other end of the spectrum, because beautiful people, they get so many privileges, so many doors open for them. But at the same time, not a lot of those opportunities, or, you know, people who go to pretty people, not a lot of them have good intentions. A lot of the people tend to project onto beautiful people. They tend to just immediately see them as sex objects, and they expect them to reciprocate that just because of how they look. And I've also heard as well that there tends to be a lot of not only, like, you know, negative experiences with men from pretty people, but also negative experiences from women. There tends to be a lot of projection and, I guess, competition as well in female friendships when one of them is very, very beautiful. So obviously, like, pretty people have a lot more privilege than less pretty people, but it's not a walk in the park either, from what I've heard. So because of this, my point is that it's not sustainable to see yourself and to kind of base your self-worth around how other people view you. Because even if you do get that external validation, the people who are giving you that validation might not necessarily have your best interests in mind. Especially, you know, the more loud people, because like I said earlier, our brain tends to listen to negative things a lot easier. They tend not to have the best intentions, and they also tend not to be very bright either. And I think that personality and, like, what's on the inside is a lot more important than what's on the outside, because again, listening to a lot of beautiful people's experiences, you can get into a lot of doors based on your appearance, but whether or not you stay there depends on your personality and what kind of skills you have to offer. It's worth noting that not everyone is like this. Not everyone has these negative intentions, but people like this really do get into our heads a lot easier. I find that it's actually helpful seeing what type of person makes you feel this way, whether you're observing people making fun of someone who looks similar to you, or if someone kind of made some sort of a comment, and maybe, like, analyze them a little bit. They're probably not happy in their lives. They're probably very insecure themselves. Let's just face it, like, people who make you feel insecure about yourself, they're not worth being around. They're not worth, I don't want to say not worth respecting, but, like, they're just like me, like a little Animal Crossing character. Like, their opinions are not worthy if they're so miserable in themselves that they're making you feel that low. So the point of this section isn't to pretend that pretty privilege doesn't exist, because it absolutely exists. Pretty people do get privileges, But I want you to know that the world and society can be shallow. So why would you let that dictate how you move on, how you conduct your life? Because people are going to have opinions regardless of how you look. Some of them are negative, some of them are positive. Negative ones tend to get into our head a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, the most important opinion is your own, especially around how you look. Now, from here, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my own experience, my own story. So after a certain rejection when I was a kid, and the reason why they rejected me was because I was ugly, I began to really overanalyze my face and my body, and comparing, a lot of comparison to other classmates of mine. And it's really kind of sad how early the comparison tends to start, and how early we start to kind of, think a lot about our appearance even as young girls. The low self-worth honestly does tend to start at a younger age. And because I wasn't getting a whole lot of validation from the kind of outside world, I ended up hiding behind a screen, going online, becoming very chronically online. I did a lot of role playing on Facebook, and I would hide behind like these pretty anime girl pictures and stuff. I found that like my identity kind of split into two. So I had the confident and like pretty person who was online, and then I had the ugly and less confident, shy type of person in real life. And I find it really interesting how pretty and confident were paired together and ugly and shy were paired together. But already there were so many links kind of happening in my brain, like, okay, if you're pretty, then you're also going to have these positive things about your personality. If you're ugly, then you're also going to have these negative things about your personality. And then as I started to get older, I stopped doing, hiding behind that appearance, and I started to, not necessarily to embrace my appearance, but, I didn't hate myself as much. But I tended to kind of have daydreams and plans and really fantasies and thinking about my future. But in those fantasies, I looked very pretty. I didn't look the way I look right now. I looked like a bombshell, basically. And when I started, realizing what I wanted to do with my life and taking the steps towards it, so like editing videos and stuff, I realized that I really do not match that fantasy version of myself. And I started to realize that a big part of my dream was actually to become beautiful. Now, I want to say that there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be beautiful, because like, who doesn't want to look like a pretty picture, But it's when it becomes the gatekeeper of your dream that it's a problem. And it can also really dictate your worth as well. And then as I continued going on my YouTube journey, I would kind of look at really beautiful YouTubers who happened to be on the thinner side, because, at this point, my biggest insecurity was my weight. And I would kind of say to myself that I can't do YouTube until I look like them. And I want to quickly note as well that I was never malicious towards other people based on their appearance, because I know some people can do that. Not everyone, but some people do when they're feeling insecure. I'm the type of person, I like to go to people, I like to compliment them. I like to kind of spread joy. If I have a thought about someone, I'm gonna tell them, if you're beautiful, you're beautiful, and you deserve to know about that. But in turn, the kind of negative thoughts that I had would really, really fester inside myself, and a lot of the time, and like, instead of kind of being towards other people, it would be really towards myself. And we don't want either of those. We want to have good feelings towards ourselves and good feelings towards others. I found that I compared myself a lot to other people's also like confidence and auras, not necessarily their beauty, but also just the way they carried themselves, because of how low, my worth was. So like, I really, really began to fantasize about being them rather than just working on myself or doing shadow work or just accepting myself either. And it got really bad. I was so cruel to myself that I wouldn't even let myself indulge in fashion or any of my kind of hobbies that have something to do with my outer appearance. And it turned into like a loop of shame and comparison, and I also started to feel behind because I kind of started to freeze. I didn't really do anything with my life. I wasn't actually working towards my goals because of the fact that I really hated how I looked, and I was just in this kind of loop as well. And also, like, weight is something that you can change, but because of all this, I was also in a loop when it came to the things that I was eating and stuff, and I kept on basically binge eating. So basically I was comparing myself to people, and I was telling myself that they're allowed to live because they're gorgeous, but I can't live until I look like them. And it was interesting because I never applied these beliefs to any other people who, might not have been as attractive. It was all just about me and how ugly I was. And I was like, okay, if other people are less attractive, which I don't really base people's worth based on their appearance anyway. I don't really think that anyone is unattractive. I don't know. I don't really care about people's physical appearance that much. But for me, like, the standard was so high. It was huge. So I told myself, you have to wait until you look beautiful in order to achieve your dreams. And my self-worth became intertwined with my appearance. I completely based my self-worth off of how I looked. And I believed that I couldn't have my dream life without being beautiful, and that I didn't deserve to either. It really began to affect all aspects of my life. I started to have less confidence in my talents and my abilities and even my potential. The way like you tend to kind of having a negative thought about yourself and how it kind of festers and grows, and eventually you like sink into a deep pit of like despair and self-hatred. That's what happened to me. And it all really, well, of course there was other things affecting it, but a lot of it stemmed from how I looked. So my solution was to place all the value on my weight. And I believed if I lost it, I could be pretty again. So instead of just accepting that I'm worthy regardless of what weight I am, I began to just move the goalpost. And I was like, okay, I can be pretty, but I need to do all this work first. I can be worthy, but I need to do all this work first. But even if you do change that one insecurity, your brain tends to end up fixating on another. I remember when I was younger, I didn't, have a higher weight. I was on the thinner side, but I was incredibly insecure. I hated this freckle above my eye, for example. I hated a freckle on my thumb. It was for some reason always freckles. And I would hate like my nose and all these random things, just completely random things my brain would fixate on. So it's not necessarily about like your actual physical appearance, it's just your brain is wanting to keep itself safe, so it's hating on itself basically. My advice from this would be, if you want to change anything about yourself before you try and reach your dreams or work towards your dreams, then you need to change your level of self-worth, how much you feel that you are worth, because it will give you the strength to resist new insecurities that might want to pop up, and also it can lead to self-love as well. I feel like a lot of people talk about self-love as if it's this really easy thing to obtain, but what about people who are really not doing amazing and they can't even think about self-acceptance, never mind self-love? It starts with, small little steps, different things that eventually build up and lead towards self-love. So for me, I absolutely do plan on losing weight, and I do plan on changing my appearance. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, wanting to look smacks. Well, maybe not in the way clavicular does. Don't smash your bones or anything. That is like very unhealthy. So I don't think being beautiful is wrong, but being beautiful or having all these different things that you want about your appearance should not be the main condition for loving yourself, or at least respecting yourself. And you don't have to be beautiful to be worthy of your dreams. You deserve to take up space just how you are, and I think that everyone should be represented. If you're worried about how you look and then you record a TikTok or something, someone who looks similarly to you might see you and they might feel a lot more confident in how they look. So everyone should be represented. And it's also important to kind of reframe how you view beauty. Think about beauty as how you treat the world, how you treat other people, and also how you customize your character as well, because fashion, makeup, all these sorts of things, they're really, really, really fun. And maybe instead of being like, okay, we need to reach like a impossible to reach beauty standard from society, how about we make ourselves like a walking art piece instead, with accessories and these sorts of things. And also, you can move towards that dream life and towards your goals way before you become beautiful, because a lot of the time people have that glow up while they're on the journey rather than right before the journey. You're not going to change at all if you're just sitting there wallowing in self-doubt and self-hatred and not really doing anything apart from hating yourself. Whereas if you're actually making the steps towards your goals, you're gonna have that confidence. It's gonna start becoming a little bit higher and higher and higher, and then maybe even your aura might change and you might just become a more naturally confident person. You will feel brave enough to make those steps. And I'm still learning about this, and I have a very, very long way to go before I'm even close to healed, so just keep that in mind. But I want you to know that we're in this together and you're not alone. The whole premise of my channel is that you are not alone and that we are in this together and that we can improve ourselves together. But for me, I don't want to wait until I'm beautiful to live my dreams. I want to start now. I still want to be beautiful, but I want to start now. And also, I feel like a lot of us take our bodies for granted as well. Like, your feet take you places, your hands make things, they feed you, your stomach feeds you, all these different things. Your body is like an organic part of yourself. Of course, you're not your body, but it is a part of you, and it keeps you alive and it keeps you functioning in this world. A part of self-respect is respecting what your body does for you and even just accepting it. And then also, like, beauty standards, they're constantly changing. So if you're basing your worth off of the fact that you don't fit a certain beauty standards, remember that they are literally every year there's something new, and it could be the most trivial things. Usually it's just some crazy things, like, I don't know, about like your finger size or how many teeth you have or something. Like, the things that people come up with to become beauty standards are crazy. So during the moments that you want to cancel your plans based on your insecurities, remember that you deserve a beautiful life regardless of how you look, and inherently you have worth. You are worth it. If you're not a terrible person, then you are worth it. You have so much worth. You deserve to chase your dreams. You deserve to put in the work. I find as well sometimes to keep going out of spite as well. A lot of the people who create these beauty standards want you to feel this way. A lot of people want you to feel this way. So why not keep going out of spite? Why not say, no, screw you. I deserve this. I deserve my dreams. And start to make hope for the new generations and stuff. Show them that you don't have to look a certain way in order to be successful. And also, here's a little psychoanalysis thing, because I am a psychology student. I find that a lot of the time there's something in your subconscious that's the true reason that you're delaying your dreams. And a lot of the time your conscious mind is projecting all those kind of feelings towards your physical appearance because it's the most physical thing to fixate on, and it's less painful as well. So it can be helpful to kind of sit with yourself, just slowly breathe, slowly look at yourself in the mirror and have a little conversation with yourself. Ask yourself, why is your appearance so important to you? Dig deep. There might be another reason why you're afraid of being seen. For me, I feel like I'm afraid of my potential, and I'm also afraid of being in the present moment. And taking action towards your dreams involves both of those things. So that's probably the deeper reason why I had been so afraid to kind of work towards my dreams for a couple of years. So I hope this video helped you, and I hope that now you know that you don't have to be beautiful before you take action towards your dreams, and that you can keep going, even if out of spite for the people who set this system up. Your confidence and your beauty does not have to be a permission slip to create a beautiful life for yourself, and those things can come as you make that life, and also they don't necessarily have to come either. The most important thing is that you have confidence in yourself and that you realize your worth. You are allowed to begin before you feel beautiful. I hope that this video was helpful in some way to you, and if it was and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Please like the video, please hype it if you could, and I really appreciate you sticking around and listening, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone, I love you so much.